Like the fact that you're listening to this podcast means you probably are interested in this stuff. And I want to say that you're likely going to be able to get there on your own. You probably don't need help. If you're listening to this, you're probably smart to figure it out on your own. And if there's a cost to going slower than you need to. And I would just encourage you to consider that rather than thinking you need to do it all alone. Could you? Yes. Is that the best use of your wild and precious life, as the poets ask? I'll leave for you to decide.
You're an inspiration to our entire organization.
Welcome to the Gym Marketing Made Simple podcast. We're going to be talking the done-for-you marketing and sales strategies proven to work with boutique fitness gyms to increase quality lead flow and grow your revenue. Don't try to be a professional marketer and waste tons of money. Let the experts at Lasso do it for you. And now, here are your hosts, Blake Ruff and Sherman Merricks.
Thank you for tuning in. We are super excited today. Have a very special guest with us. Blake and I are bringing Mark Fisher to you guys. If you don't know Mark, you've been missing out. But we're going to sort of dive into it, talk about his business, all the cool stuff he's been doing for years in the fitness space. So first of all, Mark, thanks for taking time to hang out with us, buddy.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate your patience. I know my schedule has been gnarly lately, so I appreciate you holding on. Give me a chance to get on in here.
Yeah, definitely, man. I'm patient. We can wait. We understand everyone's time is busy, so no issue. Thanks for taking the time. So, let's jump right into it for the people that are like, who? Mark, who? I've never heard of him. Give us a little background. Obviously, we're going to talk about Mark Fisher Fitness because I think that's the coolest. That's one of the coolest things I had seen 6-7 years ago when I first heard about it. So give us a little bit of background about you, Mark.
Yeah. I mean, I think the super fast version is I am a gym business guy and I do many gym business things. But I think the thing that's maybe a little bit unusual is I come from a background as a classically trained musical theater actor who spent my 20s as a professional performer. Some inside New York City, but also regionally and nationally. And concurrently, I developed a real passion and interest in strength training. And this was a little bit surprising even to me because I was a skinny guy that did not do sports. I was a theater kid. But in my 20s, I got really into fitness. Got obsessive into fitness, and then kind of developed this niche working with people in the Broadway community. And then in 2010, 2011, I kind of decided to just put all the chips on the table and go all in with that and see all right, well, I love training. I'm noticed these latent entrepreneurial aspirations were being birthed. I started reading business books and I was like, all right, well, fuck it. Let's open up a weird gym. So as we always say, we accidentally opened up a strange glittery gay unicorn gym in New York City called Mark Fisher Fitness. For those not familiar with MFF, it's an unusual place because I wanted to create something for my friends. And even though I myself was a real nerd of strength and conditioning, I wanted to share with them what I thought were the best practices of training and nutrition and behavior change, but in a way that they can understand. So we don't call our members clients, we call them ninjas. The mascot is a unicorn. We very famously don't use the word gym. It's a clubhouse. The full name is the Enchanted Ninja Clubhouse of Glory and Dreams. So it's a very unusual place. And we had the very good fortune of, I think we did a lot of the right stuff. And most saliently, we did a lot of it at the right time, in the right place, the right people. And things kind of blew up. And we have had a very successful run. We've had the opportunity to get featured in a lot of the major national publications for both fitness and business. And that has sort of launched a second career where I now work with gym owners to run more successful businesses. And that company is called Business for Unicorns. And I've been doing that since 2016, but to be honest, only really seriously maybe the last 2 to 3 years. So a lot of my focus now is on that business. MFF is still jamming along with my love and support with a very competent and awesome leadership team that's running the day-to-day there. And then the final thing I'll share just for context so people know where I'm at is I recently also became a franchisee. So I've opened up a third company that's opening up the first of what we hope to be many locations of an emerging small group personal training brand called Alloy Personal Training. So we have one location that is already open and jamming in New Jersey, and we plan to ultimately open anywhere from 5 to 10. So I think because of that, it's a little bit of an unusual background between this very colorful, kind of unusually large brick and mortar brand in New York City. It's very eccentric. What is going to ultimately be hopefully a pretty robust multi-unit franchisee business. It's opening up another brand. And then, of course, the coaching consulting, which is mostly been the world of independent gyms, but I've also had the opportunity to do a lot of speaking and traveling, working with even like larger corporate brands like Anytime Fitness, a lot of people may be familiar with. So that's my shtick. That's how we got here. That's why we're on the podcast, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely, man. I think, I want to jump right into sort of the first thing, because when I first saw like your brand, because you have a brand, right? Like it is it is unique. Yeah. So how'd you come up with the whole unicorn and color and just like, how'd you come up with that? Because like, that's what intrigued me.
Yeah.
Obviously I've seen hundreds, if not thousands of gyms, but yeah, how'd you come up with that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think I'm just weird. And I think I thought it was funny. Even that, like, it's a funny term, because for a long time I'd be like, oh, I have a weird gym. And then people would be like, oh no, you've got a cool gym. And I'd be like, yeah, I know. I said it's weird. It's cool. It's a weird gym. Weird is cool, right? And I think, again, the strength and conditioning, a lot of the circles we move in, and know a lot of this with the CrossFit world. There's a lot of, I say this with love, a lot of people whose arms are crossed, and like a lot of your faces don't move. Your faces don't move a lot. And I love you. You're my peoples. Yeah. I love to help you. I want to cuddle with you and just like beard nuzzle into your neck and just butterfly kiss you and cast white spells and share my undying belief in like your personal greatness and what you do in the world. But like, that's not me. You know what I mean? Like, clearly. So yeah, I think the other thing I think that was useful, and I think there's maybe a takeaway here for people that are listening, is I was just so clear on who it was that I wanted to help. Right. It was my friends. Right. And I would note, that the very specific person is being helped by Mark Fisher Fitness. You will note, if you go to Business for Unicorns, you're still going to see some weirdness, but I made that for somebody else. It's a different type of thing. It's still me. I still think it's self-expressed. I still think if you follow my shtick there, it's, going to be a little bit different than certainly like a vibe or feel from a lot of other people that do what I do. But, for me, it's always, I try to always think through, okay, well, what is it? What are the words that this person is thinking? Like, what are the things they're going to appeal and attract this particular person that I want to make this thing for? And, the avatar Mark Fisher Fitness were people that were not interested in gyms. There were a lot of people in the Broadway community. And we always say in the most like loving way, it was sort of like the Isle of Misfit Toys, right? It's like a lot of people that just like didn't feel comfortable in traditional gym spaces. New York City is a pretty sophisticated market all in all, but a lot of it is, the beautiful spaces for beautiful people, which is super amazing. And a lot of ninjas are also beautiful, but at the same time, like there's also a lot of people that, are very aware of the sensation of getting your lunch tray in middle school and like not being sure where to sit. So you go and you eat in the bathroom stall. Right. And like, that was the type of person I was like most interested in helping. And that type of person, I think a more traditional brand and approach, I'm not sure it would have captured their imagination the same way. So, I think there were sort of two things going on concurrently, because I've thought about this a lot over the years, and I feel like I still don't have a very good answer. But on the one hand, I think this was an expression of me just like going stream of consciousness, like playful, speaking in tongues. Like, wouldn't it be funny if we oiled me up and had a picture of me riding a dragon through the cosmos in a loincloth, shooting fire from my hands? But also, it was not strategic, right? Because by this time this all happened, I was reading about brand. I had read Purple Cow. Like, I was aware, coming from the background of an actor, where there's nothing you can do to stand out as an actor. There's almost nothing you can do, because there's tens of thousands of you that you all look the same, right? In the gym space, I was like, oh, this is so interesting. Being memorable is like pretty interesting, because everything kind of looks the same. This is cool. I can be different. But again, I think it also only worked because the people we were speaking to were so specific, right? Like, people like correctly often say, oh, well, you couldn't do that in Nebraska. And I'm like, well, yeah, no, obviously, yeah, you can't do it in Nebraska. Like, I'm not suggesting you do that. Yeah. But I still do think there's a lot of things people could model. I just think the expression of it would be different. And even for me, like I said, the expression of it in Business for Unicorns is very different, because even though I'm the same person, first of all, I'm a little bit older, honestly, so I've changed a little bit. And certainly what I'm interested in and want to talk about and coach on is different, but also the people that I'm making it for are different. So I have to serve it up for them in a different way.
Yeah, I think one thing that's super unique, and I don't know, have you ever heard of the Savannah Bananas?
Yeah, for sure.
Like the baseball team. So like you think of baseball, super boring for a lot of kids to go see, right? Like just super boring. So they made it really, really fun.
Yeah.
They put all this music, all these theatrics, all that kind of stuff. I think one thing people might listen to this be like, oh, I could do something wild and crazy. And it's like, no, but are you actually solving the problem?
Yeah.
Like we actually worked with a business, an online business that helps like theater and actor and things like that in Broadway. But what you did was you said, I already know the clientele and the problem. They don't feel like they fit in where they go. And I know what they enjoy. And you basically wore the client and you did everything you loved and it just hit a home run, right?
100%.
So I think, reverse engineering, kind of what you did is like, you like a lot of, I don't want people to think that like they hear this and like, I'm just going to go put like unicorns and start writing crazy things, right?
It won't
it's
work.
Also like you have to, you got to know the problem.
Yeah.
And you have to know how to solve it and what the interests are. It's just kind of like you had all the same interest of all your clients. So you're like, you just like basically built something you thought would be really cool for yourself. And it was really cool for everybody else because they were the same type of people as you.
Totally. And I think like
that's the same common interest.
That's absolutely it. And I think that's, sometimes that can get sticky in businesses, because sometimes I observe there sometimes is a disconnect between what the founder or the entrepreneur or the gym owner is interested in and what market is actually there. Right. Like, so like, I'm sure you guys have had the experience of the person that just really wants like hardcore, extreme chains gym for the professional athletes, but they're in a rural town and like, that's not like necessarily that's the markets there. Right. And I do think there's a navigation of what you're actually interested in. Cause I don't think it works if you go all the other way and you're like, well, I don't exist. It's not about me at all. It's only about the client and the market. Because I think if you're not interested, if you can't fall in love with not only the client, but I think actually even the process, right? If you can't fall in love with the process of what you need to do to get that person the results, it's just going to be hard to do at a very, very high level, right? Because I think the other thing that I believe is consistently underappreciated about MFF is for all the things that make social media content that is unusual and is remarkable, and people are like, these people are out of their minds. And that's broadly true. Two things is that number one, we have to keep like working on, because like, just like anywhere else, MFF is a place where people are coming to multiple times a week. It could start to feel a little forced and not authentic. So we constantly have to be not necessarily reinventing, but asking our staff to continue to be honest about, okay, what makes this interesting and fun for you? But importantly, I really think there's some real stake to the sizzle, right? So the tagline is ridiculous humans, serious fitness. I don't think this flies the same way without the serious fitness. I think if we were just a bunch of yahoos, I think it would be interesting and we would get attention. But what keeps, my mind, one of the things that keeps strength and conditioning interesting for people over time is, and this is like, corny training stuff, but, progression, variation, and precision. Like over time, are people getting stronger? Are they getting results? Do you have coaches that actually know enough that can speak in a way that make it interesting for the client to learn a skill set and see progression over time? And certainly that can go too far. And that's another thing I observe. A lot of gyms, sometimes they go the other way. They're like, well, F the clients. Like, I'm just so interested in breathing patterns. I'm so interested in breathing patterns. And it's like, okay, that's cool. Like, I know you're really into that, but like, I don't know, Mrs. Rossini is just like trying to lose 5 lbs. She's just like trying to learn how to eat some more protein. Yeah. And again, we certainly haven't gotten this right all the time by any means. I think to be completely frank, have oscillated on both sides. I think there have been periods where we were out of hand with getting not into like real complexities that for the Gen Pop client doesn't matter. And I think we probably have other moments where we knew we had to go in and train up the team a little bit more, where it was getting a little bit soft from a training methodology perspective. But I would note that in addition to the brand being interesting, in addition to the marketing piece, it is also true you have to be good at training, right? And I'll say something a little provocative here, right? Which is, it's often taken for granted in the gym business thought leader industrial complex. Oh, well, the issue is that you're just not good at marketing and sales. Right. The issue is you're just not good at lead generation. You're an amazing coach. Well, no, you're probably not actually. Like, most coaches are not good, right? It stands to reason that 90% of gyms are not in the 10%. Now, here's where this is nuancy. So beloved listener, sit on Daddy Mark's lap and let me unpack this for you, because there's a nuance here. I don't want you to hear that I am right. I don't need to learn about the business. What will double my gym's revenue is another kettlebell certification. Right. That's not what I'm saying. Right. I'm not saying that's necessarily the case. I think you need to do both. But I would say that I don't take it as an a priori condition when I'm working with a gym that the product, the service is so spectacular, the coaching is so good and fantastic that it's simply a matter of getting in leads and then we're good to go, right? Sometimes the fundamental issue is the coaching product is like, it's just not that great, right? It's just not ready for prime time. So that sounds harsh, but I love you, listeners. Maybe you're amazing. I don't know. You could be amazing.
No.
I don't know who you are. I can't see you.
And I think one thing, you're saying is like, you got to be authentic to what you love, but you also got to know your audience too, right? Like you can't be a CrossFit Games athlete and be like, all right, I'm going to pound everybody for like hour-long workouts and 50-year-olds come in your gym.
Right?
Like you're just these people are going to die.
Totally.
You got to know. But you also maybe you shouldn't put your gym in the middle of nowhere and it's all older people to go there too. And I think one thing, a lot of people, you do exceptionally well at like social media, content marketing, all that stuff to stand out. So if you could say, to a lot of people, because I think that's one thing a lot of people do very poorly is just organic content. What would you say, like for, gym owners listening to this, like how do you stand out, like creating content and posts, and what really resonates with people that are actually, consuming?
Yeah. Great questions. So, I guess there's three things. The first thing I'll say as a reminder for anyone listening is the most important thing I think to remember about social, particularly Instagram, which is most of the game these days. There are some gyms that are doing some things on TikTok, and certainly maybe you get some YouTube traction. Again, I'm not seeing a lot of brick and mortars really like nailing it from YouTube, certainly not for organic, unpaid. So we're mostly talking about Instagram, and that's also because Facebook is mostly pay to play at this point. So the thing to appreciate as the gym owner is Instagram essentially functions as a secondary and in some cases primary website, depending on your avatar. So the first thing to understand is the profile, similar to a website, has to make it immediately clear who you help, how you help them, and what to do next, right? And your presence on there at the bare minimum, right? At the bare minimum, I believe, has to at least look like the lights are on, right? So frequency, I think, is secondary to consistency. I think the key thing is making sure posting regularly enough that there's content, that it looks like the lights are on, and it looks like a fun place with images of people that look like your avatar there having fun. So that's like the first piece. The second piece that I think is just a good best practice of content in general is I always think about like the 3 E's. I want to educate, end or entertain, and or energize. I want to educate, entertain, and energize. So a lot of the content we do is a mix of just sort of like shenanigans, which are going to be high on entertainment, probably not going to do a lot to inspire people or solve problems. We do want some of the content to be educational, which is going to be a little bit more focused on what are the problems the clients are having. And I think that's an important thing for you to consider. You start with what are the problems that your avatar is having and what are the questions that they're asking, and then building solution-based content around that. And then thirdly, you have energizing. And that can look like a few different things. If you're a brand where you're like a rah-rah Tony Robbins, you might be able to just get away with just like letting into the camera. If that's not authentic to you, like that's cool. Then oftentimes what you can sub in there is some social proof, right? Telling the story of real people, just like your avatar, that had a problem. They found you, they found a solution, and then here are the specific results and outcomes, right? So those are the three things that I'm kind of thinking through. And I'll give one other thing that's a little bit more advanced at the risk of, I would say if you're like, okay, that's good. All right, turn off your ears. For people like, okay, I got that. Let's play with one more concept that we use at MFF. And we always think about a stool. So for us, it's ridiculous humans, serious fitness, and a third stool that we don't really talk about publicly because it's a little bit precious, but is infinite heart. Infinite heart. So when we're looking at Instagram at a glance, not every single post is going to do all of those, right? It's rare I'm going to have one post that's education, entertaining, inspiring, ridiculous, serious fitness, and really like warm and welcoming. Yeah. But I look at the palette of the posts that we're doing, certainly feed posts, those are the things that want to be present there, right? Or do some of these posts express that this is a remarkable place, right? So we always talk about internally, like the thing that like I always like yell at the team for is if you call someone and it sounds like you're from a law firm, you're doing it wrong, right? If you pick up the phone and you're like, Fisher and Fisher Esquire, it's like, no, you're doing it wrong, right? And again, that can go too far because then people are like, no, I feel like I have to sing when I answer the phone. It's like, well, maybe, but just don't be like a law firm, right? Just be like aggressively human, right? So we have the ridiculous fitness piece, but then also we need some serious fitness chops, right? I want something that shows that you're competent and credible, right? Because I think another takeaway here is you think about what makes a good coach. It's two pieces. Are they interpersonally warm and are they competent? Are they giving off the vibes of like, I like you, you're going to like me, you're emotionally safe with me, I'm warm to be around. There's going to be no like social awkwardness around me. But secondly, I'm competent. I'm an expert. I know what I'm doing. And if you only have one or the other, you can run into some issues. And MFF as a brand, perception wise, could run into that, right? And I think a lot of people in the fitness industry, understandably, like look at things like the website and run away screaming and assume that we're probably light on the training front, right? And could we be better? Yeah, listen, you can always get better at the things, but overall, like we'll coach the shit out of a deadlift, right? And I think that needs to also be expressed there because different people are going to respond to different things, right? Maybe the brand's colorfulness might catch someone's eye, but if they're considering actually hiring us, ideally we're giving them some value, right? We're showing that we actually know what we're talking about and we can coach you through a push-up and understand what's going on in the shoulder blade to keep your shoulders functioning well. And then the third piece is like infinite heart, which again, I can't say that's really been an issue of us having a lot of like, you'll note like we don't really do like ranty kind of off-putting-y not even like off-putting thing because it's not. I don't think it's necessarily off-putting. A lot of people like the rant. I think that's a great way to go if that's your vibe. But that's most decidedly not us. So I'll pull up there. But that's sort of hopefully maybe 3 sort of frames that someone can look at their Instagram marketing and not necessarily model literally what we've done, but use some of those techniques to review your own content.
That's amazing. I mean, I'm taking notes for you guys listening as well. So, I mean, I'm good. I'm amazing at paid marketing, but like to hear from somebody that's done social, done so well, it's great to always gain a few nuggets there.
Yeah, no, I love it. Like I told you, when I first ran across your gym, 6-7 years ago, I was looking at it. I was like, this is amazing. I need to figure out how I can have some of this stuff. Actually, one of the biggest things that I took from you guys 6-7 years ago, it was the whole, it was like the money back guarantee. And I remember you guys doing that. I was just like, I don't know how this works. I sort of read what you guys had on the website that I was like, I could do this. And I actually signed up a few people and they did it and they actually like followed through. And of course at the end, like that didn't even come up, right? Like, it wasn't even a thing. But I think that them coming in, that sort of pushed them over the edge because I remember a few of them asking, okay, how does this money back guarantee work if I get no results or this and that? And I think they were just like, okay, like there's a little safety there where if this dude trained me hard and I do all this work and it doesn't work, I can get my money back. But like you're saying, interpersonally, they liked me. I was great. I actually know what I was doing. So after a couple of weeks, I was like, oh, there's no way this lady's going to ask for her money back. Like there's no way. So yeah,
it's good. It's
really
going to be
like that. So
yeah. I was gonna say the money back guarantee feels to me like a no-brainer, right? It's like going to be so rare, first of all, that anybody does it. And I don't know, for me, I'm not saying this is like the way it needs to be in the world, but like, I don't know. I just kind of feel like, well, if you generally did my thing and you really like didn't like it, like, well, I kind of don't want your money. You know what I mean? Like, so like I personally feel like not only is it a good sales technique, I don't know. I just feel like ethically you're giving me your time and energy and money to take a risk. And I can control for some of the risk, but even a free offer, you're still risking time. You're still risking looking foolish. You're never going to get the time back. So I feel great about, as a business, absorbing that risk. And I would just note, just in case anybody's listening, I think on balance, most people probably in 2024 do this, but sometimes people feel a little bit like, yeah, but what if people, are going to try to, they're going to stick me. And I don't know. I just don't think like that's Correct. The way most people, just too much work, right? Depending on how much it is, it's just too much work to ask the money back anyway. Like if they're more likely just to ghost and disappear into nothingness. And the way this compounds over, let's say a 36-month period of maybe you get like 1 to 2 extra trials every month over 36 months. That's a very different business after 3 years than if you had, made some marginally less better conversion from lead to trial than if you had not really taken away the risk.
No, that's good. Yeah, I definitely believe that and I also don't think that like many, business gym owners are thinking like 3-4 years out, right? Like when they're running something, they're just like, hey, I need to see this ROI tomorrow, like next month. If it's not working by next month, like this isn't a thing. So that sort of brings me to my next thing. because with us having worked with hundreds and hundreds of gyms with, lead generation and all of that stuff, what are some of the things that you've seen really hold people back once they start doing lead generation? No, before that, when do you think is the time for someone to start lead generation?
Yeah, I mean, I think the time is basically right away, right? Again, assuming there's some proof of
Okay, yeah.
concept. So, like I said, I may be provocative, maybe contrarian. I'm not convinced that actually every gym owner is truly so awesome, right? And you guys, and please understand, listeners, I love you. If anyone's feeling personally confronted by this, but you guys know what this is like. Every gym owner's like, oh, we never lose anybody. The service is amazing. And I converted 95%. Yep. Just get them in front of me. That's no issue. I just need more leads, right? It's like, well, of course you convert at 95%. It's like every single person that comes in is an utter laydown because there's so much friction for them to even get started anyway. And then, retention, if you're, doing, if your gym is that small, it's pretty easy to keep your arms around them. And in practice, when you push people to look in the numbers, it's usually not 2% anyway. It's usually higher than that. But all of that to say, assuming that the product itself is good, then the top of the funnel, that's a thing where everything else like flows from, right? So sooner is probably better than later, because another thing that I push people to consider is there really is there's a real cost to going slower than you need. That's not to say that you should always be pouring gasoline on everything, because if you pour gasoline on a product that's really not working, you just the wheels fall off faster, I suppose. But again, we're assuming that the product is at least pretty good here for your market. Well, in practice, if you choose to go slower than you otherwise would need because you're trying to save money, right? If you're being, let's say, penny wise and dollar foolish, as the saying goes, that really matters. Because again, if we go back to the thinking on a slightly longer curriculum, and again, I get it. I'm a gym owner. I know it's hard to do, right? I know a lot of you out there, you're working your butts off. Maybe you feel that you're living a little paycheck to paycheck. It's stressful. Like you started this gym to have freedom, and now you have to work all these hours and you deal with employees, and like you're feeling stressed because like you're already kind of borderline financially. Now you're afraid some of your older clients are getting frustrated about some of the things you're doing to try and improve the gym. I get all that. But understand, if you think on a 3-year timeline, right, the way this works is, and I won't like talk you through the math of it because it's annoying to do without like a visual, but even if you're like incrementally making more profit over like a 36-month period, the way that compounds over time of acting faster, of doing something like really committing to lead generation and really getting more leads in that top of funnel, the way that business grows changes your entire future, right? Changes your entire future. And it's like butterfly effect. It's not just a little bit, because not only are you in a drastically different place in 3 years than had you not do that, but also the way that money makes, if you're compounding it. And I'm not saying it's just about making money, but if you're a business owner, ideally we're doing something to build wealth, which is probably its own topic, which we probably don't have time to get into today. But the way money compounds over time, money that is not invested over the next 3 years is going to be, you're just going to have a much smaller pot in 20 years out than if you're able to grow the business now. And I think the most compelling reason to get more leads now is the time, right? Because money is one thing. Like, listen, money, whatever, money comes and goes. Money, like you can get more of, money, you can find ways to do other things. You don't ever get the time back. Right. So if you are not optimizing your business for growth, and it's forcing you to stay in the gym and work longer hours, and you're not getting to hang out, for me, like with my like almost 20-month-old daughter, like I never get this time back. Right. So I am not messing around with it. And I would really invite gym owners to really consider not just the financial impact of going slow, but the time, the life impact of missing out on certain periods of your life that you're just never going to get back. And if you're there at the gym, it's one thing if you want to be there, that's one thing. But if you're there a little bit under duress and you feel like your gym is holding you hostage, learning how to run a business and learning how to fill that top of funnel with leads is going to be required for you to build the life you want.
No, that's good. I'm going to go off on a personal tangent here, because I started my gym when I was 40, when I was 27, right? Started my gym when I was 27. I had like a 2-year-old, and we were having a newborn, and I like got in this business. That's when I first started my CrossFit gym. I started it, crushed it, right? Had success pretty much early on. and things were great for years and years. And then I started finding myself doing other things to sort of supplement the gym because I just wanted to, I got into business coaching and all of this stuff. Fast forward to last month, or the last 3 or 4 months, I started realizing, man, my kids are getting older. I have a 15-year-old. He's involved in this. I have a 12-year-old. She's involved in that. I have a 10-year-old. And I basically, contrary to my accountant and everyone else, we just shut down our gym. We didn't sell it. Yes, we probably could have sold it. It was a good gym. But I shut it down and people thought we were nuts. My accountant, like, how can you shut down a profitable gym? But Mark, it really came back to that ROI on my time, right? Like I do Lasso full time. We help gym owners, all of that. But I was like, I just can't I'm not willing to give the gym the time anymore, right? At one point it was fine, but then it just got to the point where I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Not mad at anyone.
Yeah.
But like you're saying, like, I know I can make money. There's ways to make money, but I'll never get this time back. So I think that's a big one that people sort of overlook. I think that if most people are competent at what they do, interpersonally, they're great with people, they're willing to bust their butts, you can grow a gym, right? Like you can figure it out. But if you don't get things in place in order, it is going to monopolize your time forever, even though you have a little, financial success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True that. Yeah. Because the other thing too, that is very true. And here, this is like painful because this is like fully how I've gotten my own way in the past. I am not unintelligent. I am not incapable of reading a book and taking action. And it probably took me longer to do some things than otherwise I could have if I had maybe humbled myself a little bit and found some shortcuts. Right. Because here's the other thing I would observe, like the fact that you're listening to this podcast means you probably are interested in this stuff. And I want to say that you're likely going to be able to get there on your own. You probably don't need help. Like if you're listening to this, you're probably smart to figure it out on your own. And there's a cost to going slower than you need to. And I would just encourage you to consider that rather than thinking you need to do it all alone. Could you? Yes. Is that the best use of your wild and precious life, as the poets ask? I'll leave it for you to decide.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think, for us, I've never had a business partner, right? So Blake and I became business partner. And I was like, one of my buddies, he's always had a business partner, uber successful. And he was like, listen, like you can grow something by yourself. He was like, but I've had success doing things with other people and you just go faster and you don't have to do it alone. And I think that's one of the things you're talking about. So many people, they're just afraid to sort of take a risk. Like, oh, I'd rather grow it low and slow. And I was really trying not to laugh out loud when you said, oh, they talk about, I just need more leads in the door. Or when they come in, I sign up 90% of people. Like we hear that all the time.
I'm sure you do.
Until we turn on the top of the funnel. And then they're like, oh, none of these people like me and they don't need my services. And I'm just like, uh-oh, we have a sales problem now. Like this is not as easy as you thought. You thought you just needed more people. We gave you more people. Now these aren't good people. So yeah,
I just want to say I love everyone listening, by the way. So if anyone listening is feeling personally attacked, we love you. We're so grateful you're listening. You're going to get there. This is all normal stuff. And thank you for listening. We're not personally attacking you. We actually care about you quite a great deal.
No, definitely. No, for sure. So the last thing, before we sort of get off here, I want to talk about what are some ways that you've seen that you could leave the audience with as far as time management for gym owners? Because I think that's one of the things that really burns people out, pushes them out of the industry, Yeah. So I think there's a lot. Oh gosh, so the first thing we'll say is time management is a little bit of a bucket term, right? Which is to say there's a lot of discrete skill sets under what we refer to as time management. And it's entirely possible, for instance, to be very good at, let's say, organizing your thoughts in some sort of to-do list kind of system, and maybe even very decent at scheduling out when the things are going to happen, but very poor at actually executing it, and poor at perhaps, let's say, boundary setting, which I would highlight, I think is a very important piece of time management that is often overlooked, is the ability to set boundaries with others. And maybe most importantly, set boundaries with yourself. So you're not chasing after all the shiny objects. So I think there's a lot of different things that, a gym owner could
look into. But the first thing for most people, which is so boring and it's so annoying and no one wants to do it, but there's not a better solution, is I think assessing how you're currently spending your time, right? So just really understanding what are the tasks that you are currently doing on a monthly, daily basis, or I say daily, weekly basis. And then from there, there's two ways to do this, right? The easiest way to do it is sit down with a piece of paper, just jot it out, just get down on paper, list of all the things, challenge yourself, just really think through the past week. What are all the things that you do? Get them on paper, just make a list. If you want to do the more intensive version, you can actually track over, let's say 3 days a week, and actually track perhaps in quarter hour increments, perhaps on something like a Google Doc, or I think there's apps that can do this to really actually understand how you're using your time. Because a fun fact I'd like to share about time is really interesting is everybody feels like they're working all the time, but when you actually track how much people are working, a lot of people spend a lot of time like kind of sort of working, but they're spending a lot of time hanging out with their kids where they're also kind of sort of working. So it gets very bougie bougie. And in practice, most people are actually very bad at assessing how they are spending their time. And I would contrast this to two other places where we have not really been adapted by the ancestral evolutionary environment to be good at tracking things. And that's food and money. The difference is money, even though we're really bad at tracking, you don't have to worry about it because JP Morgan Chase is tracking it for you, baby. You might be surprised, but you never have to worry about like, oh, I thought I had all this extra money. It's like, nope, they're going to pay attention. If you spent it, it's gone. Food also has a little bit more of a bound because with food, whether you're actually accurately or tracking it or not, it's going to have an impact on your body weight, potentially your physique, maybe some health biomarker outcomes. Time, we don't really have that, right? Because even time well spent, it's not a one-to-one, it's not collinear with your actual business results, let's say, right? Because you could be doing the right things for the right amount of time and you're just really executing badly, right? So it's a little bit more complicated. So all that to say, I think that's probably the place most people should start. Honestly, if you just do that and call it a day, you're probably going to learn things because what gets measured, as the saying goes, is going to get managed. And if you actually do this, whether you do the fast and loose version or take a week to do it, you'll probably learn some things and be like, oh crap, I'm spending a lot of time doing X, right? And I would encourage you, maybe one other offering here for playing with this particular model is you can further assess the tasks by assessing them on a number of benchmarks, right? So how much would it cost for you to outsource a given task to someone else, right? So Business for Unicorns, we teach something called the gym owner task hierarchy, right? And crudely, I break it down essentially like 5 tiers of what you could be spending your time on. And if anybody's interested in this, you can find us on Instagram. And there's actually like a post you can go and find and look at it. And in the interest of time, I won't go through the whole thing, but I'll just say that to state the very obvious, selling a client into a year-long membership augurs a much higher hourly pay rate than unclogging a toilet. They both are important. They both need to be done, but they don't necessarily all need to be done by you. And a lot of your game as the gym owner is to spend more and more of your time on things that correlate with a higher hourly payout and less of your time on the things that are not moving the ball as far forward, right? And I would note, as relates to our conversation today, when it comes to things like lead generation, lead follow-up, and marketing generally, here's a final gift I want to give you to look out, because this is very perverse and we can all fall into this, by the way, right? We can all fall into this. Is we must seek to avoid, as John Wooden would say, confusing activity with achievement. Because what often happens for a lot of gym owners are, you might not particularly like scrubbing the shards of feces off the side of the toilet bowl, but you have a real sense of like, oh, I did it. I know what that is, right? You might not love processing emails, but boy, you can get a dopamine hit because you're getting some things done. And many people, it's just human nature, would prefer to do these lower value tasks than do these ostensibly higher value tasks like marketing activities, because you suck, because you're not good at marketing activities yet. So correctly, you're feeling some tension because you're like, well, I could work on organic posts, or I could, spend more time, following up with these leads that I'm getting from Facebook. Lasso's getting me these leads, but these, I don't know, they're probably, they don't even know who I am. They haven't even heard of me. So I don't want to call these people. It sucks. I think I'm just going to clean the toilet. Right. So I really want to put on your radar this really unfortunate human tendency to just keep going back and retreating to the safety of things that you know how to do, instead of forcing yourself to do the things that are going to move the ball forward, even if you're uncomfortable and even if you're bad at them right now, because you cannot be good at things until you move through being bad at them, right? Like that's just table set. That's just unfortunately the cost as adults. I think we know this. And I promise you, these skills are learnable, but you have to put in the reps, you have to put in the time, and you have to find oftentimes resources. And these days, 2024 is a very different time, right? Like like 12 years ago, this wasn't really like a thing. There weren't really a lot of people out there that had walked this path you could go to and look for proven models, and there's a lot of people to do it now. So you kind of have a lot of choices too. You can even find people that are vibe fit, because there's like so many options and places you can go to learn this. Certainly you could probably say some are better than others, but overall, I would say if the real missing link here is things like lead generation and marketing, like hire it out, baby. Like find people and not only hire it out, but like take the time to learn enough about it that you know what you're doing, right? Because I know, you guys obviously get people leads, and I'm sure you would say this too. It's not that fun to work with a client that's just like, here you go, figure it out. Just get me the leads. Just make the business happen, because it doesn't work like that, right? You're going to have to be involved in that process. And there's things that even with an incredible agency, you're going to have to help support them and make their life easier, and that you're going to have to do to really take the ball into the end zone, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I love that. And we're going to end it there. But Mark, I'm going to, I know you're busy. It was hard enough to get you on here once, but you and we have to have a conversation about finances and wealth.
Oh yeah.
On this podcast, because I could tell you were passionate about it. That's one of my passions too. And I'm pretty sure that we can geek out on that for at least 45 minutes.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to have you back. I'm going to put that in pencil somewhere, and I'm going to reach out again, because I think that'll be great. But we'll put all of your contact and stuff in the show notes. So if you guys want to get in contact with Mark, you'll be able to get in contact with him. Definitely go check out his stuff. It is unique. It is great. I've been following his stuff for years. So Mark, thank you for taking the time to hang out with us, buddy. We really do appreciate it.
Hey, pleasure. Thank you, gentlemen, so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right. And as usual, guys, if you need help with your sales and marketing, generating leads, sales training, all that stuff, we would love to help you at Lasso. Tell a friend to tune in next week, and we will see you guys soon.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to the Gym Marketing Made Simple podcast with Blake Ruff and Sherman Merricks. We hope you enjoyed. We believe marketing should increase revenue and not waste money. So book your free call today. Head on over to lassoframework.com. That's lassoframework.com and find the right words, get more customers, and increase your revenue. We'll see you here next time.